INFJs, have you ever had the feeling in the back of your head like you don't really know who you are? Like you're having imposter syndrome, like your body is just a shell and your mind and your soul coexist with your body, but they aren't actually part of the same entity. Like you're not even really sure what you're existing for, what you like, what you don't like, or what you want out of life. Welcome to this series on INFJ struggles, and in today's video we are going to be talking about why INFJs tend to have a poor sense of ourselves and why we tend to feel like we don't know ourselves. So reason number one, our introverted intuition is subjective. So the number one reason why I feel like INFJs feel like we don't really know ourselves is because of our dominant cognitive function, introverted intuition. And our dominant cognitive function is something that is very subjective. So introverted intuition is concerned with absorbing information and then asking, how are all of these concepts related? When I put all of it together, what kind of picture does it paint? And then what does this picture indicate for me? So you can see how the main mode in which the INFJ operates is very subjective, and truthfully it's merely speculative and interpretive, which then leaves us prone to misinterpreting our NI vision. It's almost schizophrenic because we've gathered all of this information and we've pieced it all together and we're looking at the picture that it has formed and we're trying to interpret it, but for all we know, it may not even be a picture. For all we know, these pieces may not even belong together. They have nothing to do with each other, and we're just drawing a line between these ideas that are completely irrelevant to one another. So our tendency to think that there is this greater purpose that we're supposed to be looking for, that could just be entirely in our heads. And trying to strive for this potentially imaginary purpose gives the INFJ nothing concrete to build our identity on. So introverted intuition can be an awesome thing because it helps the INFJ to see patterns that no one else can see, and this is why introverted intuition is thought of as the future telling cognitive function. But sometimes introverted intuition visions are incorrect, and this can cause the INFJ to second guess ourselves and wonder if we know anything at all, and wonder if any of our intuitions are correct. Like, am I just a lunatic? Who am I? So this brings me to my next point. Number two, INFJs focus on the bigger picture instead of ourselves. So INFJs tend not to be focused on ourselves, and we're more focused on information from our introverted intuition, or the bigger picture, or the grand overarching theme of life. And this grand overarching theme may or may not have anything to do with us. Even if it does have to do with us, we see ourselves as just a small cog in this big machine, and we see that something bigger is at play here. So we're constantly looking past ourselves and just trying to figure out how we play into all of this and what is at play here. And I feel like this is another big reason why INFJs tend to feel like we don't really know ourselves. We tend to think that our identity is more so grounded in our greater purpose and how we fit into what's going on. But if we don't know what's going on, we don't know our purpose. And if we don't know our purpose, then we don't know our identity. And I want to say really quickly that this is one way in which you can tell if you are an INFJ or an INFP mistyped as an INFJ. So the INFJ's primary mode is to ask, how can I live a life of purpose? Whereas the INFP's primary mode is more so along the lines of, how can I live an authentic life? I think the INFP with their dominant introverted feeling will navigate the world seeking to contribute to their own inner harmony, but the INFJ's dominant NI will cause them to navigate the world seeking for ways to contribute harmony to the world. So one isn't better than the other, because INFPs, where they protect their inner harmony and they can come across something and say, I like this or I don't like this, and therefore I will either take it or discard it. They are so much more centered in their sense of self, and they know themselves so much more intimately, and they can really take charge and take responsibility for their own happiness. But for INFJs, where we are looking for how can we find our place in this whole big world, or our purpose in this whole big scheme of life, we are constantly trying to shapeshift to be what the world needs us to be. So contrary to the INFP, we INFJs aren't centered in our sense of self. Our sense of self comes from how we can be purposeful, and if we can't find that, or if we can't see that our purpose is making a difference in the world, then we can start to feel useless and displaced. So another reason why INFJs tend to struggle with having a sense of themselves is because our dominant introverted intuition and our tertiary introverted thinking tend to make us want to know objective truths separate from our personal feelings, or separate from our personal opinions. So I mentioned that introverted intuition is concerned with collecting information in our minds and trying to find out if there is a connection between all of that information, and if the sum of that information gives indication to a whole other meaning of something else. And then when you pair our introverted intuition with our tertiary introverted thinking, where introverted thinking is concerned with looking at things logically and objectively, understanding the process of how things work, how they work independently, as well as how they work within a system. The result is that the INFJs and INTI will tend to want to look at things in an unpersonal and unbiased manner. So INFJs will tend to not have a lot of strong preferences or opinions. We just want to understand things for what they are, how they work, and what implications they have. We don't look at things in terms of how we like it or what it can do for us. We know that our perception of this thing is limited, and there are all these different angles of a thing to look at and to consider, and our teeny tiny perception of it, or our mere opinion of it, should not be the end all be all of it. So this is kind of like my previous point where I said that INFJs look at the bigger picture. We understand that our opinions and our feelings should be irrelevant if we want to understand something in its truth. When people are like, how do you feel about abortion? How do you feel about mandating vaccines? How do you feel about this or that? We're just like, I see all sides to things, so I don't know. So again, this is why INFJs tend to not know how we feel about things, and we aren't in tune with ourselves, because we are more concerned about being able to see things clearly, and to be able to see truths and fallacies rather than just being wrapped up in how we feel. Another reason why INFJs tend to have a poor sense of ourselves is because our extroverted feeling makes us consider everyone before ourselves and dilutes our sense of self. So extroverted feeling, or FE, is the INFJ's second cognitive function, and it is concerned with reading the emotions of those around us and desiring to do what will bring emotional harmony to the environment. So for example, if you and your friends are trying to decide where to go for dinner, you will just go along with the restaurant that everyone else wants to go, even if they decide on a place that you really didn't like, because you just want to do what will make everyone else happy. So because INFJs are always looking to make everyone else happy, or to make everyone else feel good, we don't really stop to ask what we like, what makes us happy. And this brings me to my next point. Inferior extroverted sensing makes us not really in tune with the physical world, so we don't take joy in physical things like other people tend to do. Some people might hear my previous point where I said that INFJs are so worried about making everyone else happy that we forget to stop and ask what makes us happy. But believe me, don't feel sorry for us, because even if people were to say, let's do what you want, what do you want to do? We'd be a little nervous, like, because usually whenever people want to try to make us happy, it would be through some sort of physical means. Like they would try to make us happy by getting us a gift or taking us to go do an enjoyable activity. And we like physical things. We like restaurants. We like clothes. We like gifts and things. But if you're trying to give us those things or do those things with us to try to make us happy, we don't like those things as much as we'd like for just you to be happy, if that makes sense. Like, I think a lot of people think that physical things make people happy. Like, if you could give these things to people, then it would make them happy. And yeah, INFJs would be happy if you took us to our favorite restaurant, or if you bought us like this really nice gift. But I think that INFJs would agree that the thing that would make us the happiest are things that cannot be physically given. I think that the things that would make us the happiest would be things like seeing our loved ones love one another, seeing that our family and our friends are all happy and healthy, seeing that there's peace in the world. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking that is a load of bullshit, then you can clearly see why INFJs are confused when it comes to ourselves. We're like, damn it, why can't I just want cars and money like everyone else? That would be so much easier. But instead we're desiring these weird things like world peace that may or may not ever be achievable, speculative things. So then those kinds of things just sit in the corner of our minds as something potentially unattainable. And then we have to go back to facing the question of, what do we want? What do we like or don't like? What makes us happy? And then we go back to realizing we don't know. And again, feeling like we just have no idea who we are. So these are all the reasons why I think INFJs tend to not have a good grasp of who we are. As always, I like to end my video on a lighter note. I was thinking maybe I need to give you guys some tips on how to have a better sense of yourself, but when I thought about it, it would really be encouraging you INFJs out there to be someone that you're not. So I don't want to advise you to like be more opinionated or try to figure out what you like or don't like. I mean, you can do those things too. Once in a while we do need to get off the sidelines and form opinions on certain matters, especially if there is an injustice going on. And we do need to know what makes us happy or unhappy so that we can be accountable for ourselves and be responsible for our own happiness. But I think that the best thing that us INFJs can do with regards to remedying this tendency to have a poor sense of ourselves is to embrace the fact that above all else, our identity is that we are truth seekers. And this by definition will mean that we have a greater priority for knowing truths rather than knowing ourselves. The INFJ is defined as individuals who live a life abandoned of ourself in order to seek truths in life. And this is what makes us unique, because we are on this ongoing journey to find truths in life. Our identity may not form as solidly, as quickly as other people. Other people's identities are grounded in things like their opinions and their likes and dislikes, and those things are easier to come by. So those people will form a good sense of themselves. But for us, truths in life are a little harder to come by. It's important to take some time to appreciate your existence, to be in tune with yourself, and to understand what makes you happy and what makes you tick, and to understand and appreciate the fact that you are a significant and special person on this earth. But also know that at the end of the day, a large part of the INFJ's identity is that we are truth seekers, leading a life abandoned of our self in order to find life's unbiased, impersonal truths. That is who we are, and that is what makes us unique and special and beautiful. So that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments if you are an INFJ and if you have ever had this struggle with knowing yourself. I love hearing from INFJs and your unique perspectives. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned for my other videos.